People always say, you never really know your neighbors. I learned that the hard way because the man next door didn't just watch us, he was waiting. My name is Evan Cole, and this happened in late 2022 in a quiet suburban town outside Athens, Georgia. My wife Lena and I had just bought our first house. Nothing fancy. 2 floors, beige siding, a narrow backyard. The kind of place you convince yourself will become a home. We were in our late 20s, exhausted from work, drowning in EMIs, but proud. We told ourselves this was the start of our real life. The street was calm, almost too calm. On our right lived a retired couple who waved every morning. Across the street, a family with kids who left bikes on the lawn. Normal, predictable. Then there was the house on our left. It looked fine, clean, maintained, white curtains always drawn tight. A black sedan parked in the driveway, never moving. No lights at night, no deliveries, no sounds. We didn't see anyone come or go for the first week. Lena noticed it first. "Do you feel like someone's watching us?" she asked one afternoon while unloading groceries. I laughed it off until I looked up. Behind the front window, a man stood perfectly still, half his face visible, no expression, just staring. The moment our eyes met, he stepped back, disappearing behind the curtain. No wave, no awkward smile, nothing. "It's probably nothing," I said, but my chest felt tight saying it. Over the next few days, it happened again. I'd catch him in the living room window when leaving for work. Lena saw him once upstairs while getting the mail. Every time, same pattern. He watched, we noticed, he vanished. One night changed everything. Around 12:30 a.m., I walked past our upstairs bedroom window. Out of habit, I glanced outside. He was there. Not hiding, not half visible. He stood straight in his upstairs window, facing our bedroom. I froze. Something about the way he stood, too still, too intentional, made my skin crawl. This wasn't accidental. When he realized I saw him, he stepped back slowly, like he didn't care if I knew. I laughed nervously and told Lena, "Guess our neighbor's a bit of a creep." The next morning, he knocked on our door. That was the first time we saw him outside. He introduced himself as Martin Hale, mid-50s, clean clothes, polite smile that never reached his eyes. He apologized for looking suspicious the night before, said he was fixing something near his window. He smiled the entire time. Too much. I accepted the apology because that's what you do when you don't want trouble. When I closed the door, Lena whispered, "There's something wrong with him." A week later, something happened we couldn't ignore. At 2:07 a.m., Lena shook me awake. "There's someone outside." Half asleep, I checked the backyard. A man was walking near our fence, moving slowly, like he was searching for something. I shouted, "Hey!" The man walked quickly toward the gate and slammed it shut. I didn't go outside. I didn't call the cops. I told myself it was probably nothing. 3 nights later, it happened again. This time, we both heard it. Metal scraping, a soft rattle, like someone testing a lock. I checked the window. The man stood under our porch light. I recognized his posture instantly. "Martin!" I yelled. He didn't react. He simply turned and walked away. That night, I went to his house. He answered immediately, smiling like he'd been waiting. "Oh, that? Yeah, that was me," he said casually. "Kids jump fences around here all the time." He laughed, but his eyes were cold. I didn't believe him, not for a second. 2 days later, he invited us over for dinner. He said he'd ordered Asian food and laughed after saying it. Lena squeezed my hand. We went anyway. Big mistake. The house felt wrong the second we stepped in. Dim lights, curtains shut, wine bottles already empty. Martin drank more and more as the night went on. His comments started small, then sharper, then hateful. He talked about how the neighborhood used to be, about outsiders, about how some people don't belong. Then he admitted it. He had been in our backyard on purpose. He leaned forward, eyes glassy, and said, "You should have known better than to move here." We left without saying a word. That night, Lena cried. We decided to avoid him completely. But you can't avoid someone who lives 6 feet away. A week later, at 3:11 a.m., something smashed through our living room window. Glass exploded across the floor. A brick lay in the center of the room. No note, no message. We called the police. Martin denied everything. They couldn't prove anything. 2 nights after that, I woke up to a sound that didn't belong. Slow footsteps coming from our backyard, and this time they stopped right outside our bedroom wall. The footsteps stopped right outside our bedroom wall, not pacing, not running, just standing there. I held my breath. Lena's fingers dug into my arm so hard it hurt. We didn't speak. We didn't move. Even the air felt frozen, like the house itself was listening. Then came the sound, a soft scrape, fingernails, dragging slowly along the siding of our house. I felt my stomach drop. Whoever it was, whoever, was close enough to touch our wall, close enough to hear us breathe. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, keeping the screen dim. I whispered our address, my voice shaking. The dispatcher told us to stay inside, stay quiet. Officers were on the way. Outside, the scraping stopped. Footsteps moved away. By the time the police arrived, the yard was empty. They searched everything: backyard, fence line, side yard between our house and Martin's. No footprints, no signs of forced entry, nothing. They went next door. Martin answered in a robe, calm as ever. He told them he'd been asleep all night, smiling. The officers left with nothing but another report. That was the night something changed in Lena. She stopped sleeping. She stopped opening the curtains. She jumped at every sound. She started locking doors twice, then 3 times. And I don't blame her. because the watching didn't stop. It got worse. Martin didn't hide anymore. He stood openly in his windows, morning, night, rain or shine. Sometimes upstairs, sometimes downstairs, always facing our house. Once, Lena caught him standing in his backyard, our fence line, just staring at our bedroom window, not moving, just waiting. We installed cameras. 2 days later, they went offline at 2:14 a.m., both of them, at the same time. The footage cut to black and resumed an hour later. Nothing recorded, no error logs, just silence. I reported it. The technician blamed interference. I knew better. Then came the notes. The first one was slipped under our door. No envelope, just folded paper. You should have left when you had the chance. The handwriting was neat, careful. The second one came 3 nights later, left on our windshield. I can hear you at night. Lena broke down. That morning, we went door to door. Some neighbors avoided eye contact. Others told us the truth. Martin Hale had lived there for over 20 years. His wife left suddenly in 2016. No explanation, no divorce filed. She just disappeared. People said she ran off. No one ever proved it. One older neighbor leaned in and whispered something I'll never forget. He watches the houses before things happen. That night, at exactly 1:33 a.m., the power went out. Only our house. Not the street, not Martin's, just us. The backup lights kicked on, and that's when we heard it. The back door handle, turning, slowly, carefully, testing. I grabbed a baseball bat and told Lena to lock herself in the bathroom and call 911. The handle stopped. Then came a knock, soft, polite, 3 times. "Evan," a voice said. My blood ran cold. It was Martin. "I just want to talk." I didn't answer. The knock came again, harder. "I know you're awake." The doorbell rang, over and over. Then silence. Minutes passed. Then our camera app sent a notification. Motion detected. Backyard. I opened the feed. Martin stood inches from the camera, smiling directly into the lens. Then he raised his finger and slowly drew it across his throat. The police arrived in under 5 minutes. This time they caught him, not inside, but standing on our porch, holding a brick, same type as the one that shattered our window. They arrested him for trespassing, harassment, and threats. While they cuffed him, he looked at me and said, "She would have liked you." I didn't know who she was. I didn't want to. We moved out 3 days later. Didn't sell, didn't finish unpacking. We left. 2 months after we moved, we got a call. Martin Hale had been charged with murder. They found human remains beneath his basement floor. A woman, his wife, buried there for years. The final detail made me sick. Neighbors testified that after she disappeared, Martin started watching the houses next door every time someone new moved in, especially couples, especially at night. The house wasn't watching us. He was. And he wasn't just watching. He was deciding. We still don't sleep with open curtains. Sometimes, Lena wakes up convinced someone is standing at the window. Sometimes, I believe her. Because the last thing Martin said during sentencing was this: "You can move away from the house, but you can't move away from being seen." They say ghosts haunt old houses, but what if the thing watching you is wide awake? My name is Ryan Mercer, and this happened in early 2021 in a quiet town outside Boise, Idaho. No urban legends, no abandoned mansion, just a normal duplex on a clean street, and a neighbor who never slept. I know how that sounds, but listen to me carefully. I didn't think he never slept. I proved it. I moved into the duplex after a bad breakup. Cheap rent, short commute. I needed quiet more than comfort. The place was split straight down the middle, my unit on the left, the neighbors on the right. We shared one long wall, bedroom to bedroom. The landlord told me only one thing about the other tenant. Keeps to himself, works nights. That was it. No name, no warnings. The first week was peaceful, too peaceful. No footsteps, no TV, no music, no voices, just silence. On the fifth night, as I lay in bed scrolling through my phone, I heard it. A sound from the other side of the wall. Not loud, not sudden. A slow, steady breathing. At first, I assumed it was imagination. Thin walls, old building. Your brain fills gaps when you're alone. But the breathing didn't stop. It stayed perfectly rhythmic. In, out. In, out. I rolled over, placing my ear closer to the wall. The breathing grew clearer. He wasn't snoring. He wasn't coughing. He was awake. I told myself he was on the phone, or meditating, or just standing there for some reason. Eventually, it stopped. I slept. 2 nights later, it happened again. Same time, same breathing. This time, I noticed something else. He was standing exactly where my head was. I could tell because when I shifted slightly, the breathing followed. Not instantly, but deliberately, like he was adjusting his position to stay aligned with me. My stomach tightened. I whispered, "Hello?" The breathing stopped. Dead silence. No movement. No retreating footsteps. Just gone. The next morning, I checked the shared wall. There were no vents, no pipes, nothing that could explain that sound. Over the next week, the pattern became undeniable. Every night between 1 and 3 a.m., the breathing returned. Always calm, always controlled. Never once did I hear him lie down. Never once did I hear a bed creak. He just stood there, night after night. I started sleeping with headphones, white noise, podcasts, anything. But one night, my phone died. I woke up at 2:14 a.m., and the breathing was already there, closer than ever. I could hear the subtle wetness of breath through teeth. I sat up. The breathing didn't change, didn't panic, didn't react. That's when I realized something that made my blood run cold. The breathing wasn't coming through the wall. It was coming from inside it, like his mouth was pressed against it. I whispered, whispering barely audible, "What do you want?" For the first time, he spoke, a soft voice, calm, almost gentle. "You're still awake." My lungs froze. I didn't respond. After a few seconds, he said, "That's okay. I'll wait." Then footsteps, slow, measured, walking away. The next day, I tried to meet him. I knocked on his door. No answer. I knocked again. Nothing. But I noticed something strange. His door frame was scratched. Long, vertical marks, like fingernails dragged downward. Too deep. Too consistent. That night, I locked my bedroom door. It didn't matter. At 2:06 a.m., the breathing returned, but not at the wall. This time, it was at my bedroom door, on my side. I could hear it through the wood. Slow, patient. Then the voice again. "You move too much when you dream." I didn't scream. I couldn't. I sat frozen, staring at the door handle. It didn't turn. It just waited. After what felt like hours, the breathing faded. Footsteps moved away. The next morning, I called my landlord. I demanded to know who lived next door. He went quiet. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. That unit shouldn't be occupied. I asked him what he meant. He hesitated, then finally said, "The previous tenant died in his sleep. They never found how long he'd been dead. The coroner estimated weeks." I asked him one last question. "Then who's paying rent?" The line went silent. That night, I packed essentials and slept in my car. At 3:11 a.m., I received a text from an unknown number. It said, "You forgot to say goodnight." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car in a Walmart parking lot, engine off, seat reclined just enough to keep my back from locking up. My phone sat in my lap, screen glowing with that single message. "You forgot to say goodnight." I checked the number. No caller ID, no area code, just a string of digits that didn't look right. Too long, like something auto-generated. I blocked it. For about 30 seconds, I felt stupidly relieved. Then another message came through. Blocking doesn't change anything. My hands started shaking. I drove until sunrise. By morning, fear had turned into anger, the kind that only comes when you're exhausted and cornered. I went straight back to the duplex. Broad daylight, normal sounds, birds, lawnmowers, a world that looked perfectly safe. I needed answers. The landlord's office was only 10 minutes away. When I walked in, he looked like a man who already knew why I was there. "I'm breaking the lease," I said. "Today." He didn't argue. That scared me more than if he had. Instead, he sat down slowly and rubbed his face with both hands. "I shouldn't have rented that unit," he said quietly. "Either of them." I asked him to explain. He told me everything. The man who lived next door before me was named Caleb Rourke. Mid-30s, software job, quiet, no family nearby. Neighbors complained, not about noise, but about stillness. Lights always on, curtains never moved. No one ever saw him sleep. Then, one winter, a pipe burst in his unit. Maintenance entered. They found him standing in his bedroom, dead, upright, eyes open. The coroner said something that stuck with everyone who heard it. Whatever killed him didn't happen quickly, and it didn't happen lying down. The unit stayed empty for months. No one wanted it, until someone started paying rent again, automatically, on time, every month. No name attached, just direct deposit. The landlord never went inside again. Neither did maintenance. I asked the question that had been gnawing at me since last night. Why didn't you tell me? He looked me dead in the eye and said, because the last tenant who asked too many questions started sleeping in his car too. I moved out that afternoon. Didn't pack properly, didn't clean, just grabbed clothes, laptop, documents. As I left, I glanced at the shared wall one last time. For the first time since moving in, I saw movement. A shadow slid slowly behind the neighbor's bedroom curtain, not rushing, not hiding, acknowledging me. I didn't look back again. I stayed with a friend for a while, changed my number, took time off work, tried to forget. For weeks, nothing happened. I convinced myself it was over, until one night, lying in a different bed, in a different house, I woke up at 2:14 a.m. My heart was racing before I even knew why. Then I heard it, breathing, not loud, not rushed, right beside my ear. I didn't turn my head, didn't open my eyes, because I understood something then, something I wish I hadn't. Caleb wasn't haunting the duplex. He wasn't attached to a place. He was attached to patterns, to people who were alone, to people who stayed awake too long, to people who listened. The breathing stopped. A whisper followed, so close I felt it against my skin. You moved again. I slept with the lights on after that, for months. I never went back to Boise. I don't live alone anymore, and I never, ever sleep with my head against a wall, because some things don't watch houses, they watch habits, and once they learn yours, they don't need to sleep.